I don't know if that necessarily
There
means
are-
we're live.
Did you blow up the Death Star, or did you start the show?
I do like that it looks like we're in space. Oh no, I'm in a room.
Floating. We got shut out the airlock. Hey everybody, I'm Amy.
And I'm Paul.
And welcome to the Comics Hall. We've got a very special show for you guys this week. We are covering it's Wednesday, May 5th, but we are covering a entire galaxy's worth of comic books.
Yes, we are. And of course, we are joined by our wonderful moderator, Rob.
AKA Robafett.
Robafett.
Hello, everybody.
I didn't know if I should go with like Pa Bufrick or Paul Bufrick, but either way, obviously I settled on a name. Oh, and Amy, what's your name? Let's hear your name out loud because I haven't said it because I'm terrified of pronouncing it wrong.
I'm gonna say it's Aimla Sakura, like Ayla Sakura, but Aimla.
It's Italian for secure the bag.
Something like that.
Well, everyone, we are live on Facebook, Let Your Geeks At Show Facebook group, YouTube, and Twitch. And these comments are moving so fast, and today, Rob is producing our show. So we are enlisting the help of our second favorite Sith in the galaxy. Let's bring him on to say hi. Oh,
me.
It's you.
It's me.
Why do we rehearse if you're just gonna do that every time? Hi, dude. How you doing?
What's going on? This is I think it's my first time on the Comics Hall, so I feel a little
Welcome.
special.
Well, you are a lot of special. Well, Alex will be in the chats with you on multiple platforms, as will Rob. So if you guys have any questions, anything you guys would like to know about comics in general, because obviously it is Fan Week, but there were quite a few other comics that did come out that have nothing to do with Star Wars, and we're going to talk about them. But Alex, thank you so much. We're going to put you back in the green room. Let them know if you guys have any questions. Thank you as well, Rob. Appreciate it. Oh, I forgot. There's both of us can do everything, so that happens quite a bit. All right, Amy. Whew.
Well, as you mentioned, it is, some people call today Revenge of the 5th. It is Cinco de Mayo. We are in the middle, smack dab in the middle of Star Wars May the 4th, or Sideshow's May the 4th fan week. So we did want to cover for you guys a bunch of Star Wars comics because, as you guys know, that there are a ton of them from different eras and different publishers. We really wanted to kind of give you a look at the Skywalker saga through comics with some of our favorites. Yes. Thank you guys for those of you who showed up, despite the fact that we did have some wrong dates on the graphics, because we're coming to you from the future about a galaxy far, far away.
This is just the pre-show for that. Just stick around for 7 days.
Now, next week we'll be back to the normal books, but right now we do have some news. I'm going to start with actually the breaking news that is not Star Wars related, but as of today, Deadline has announced that Diablo Cody will be writing and Blake Lively will be starring in a live-action adaptation of Ladykiller from Dark Horse Comics,
so stoked.
Which, if you have never had the chance to read Ladykiller, wouldn't recommend looking for a #1 issue today. Those, of course, have shot up on eBay, but you can get it digitally from Dark Horse and Comixology, but this is billed as Betty Draper meets Hannibal, and it's about a housewife who is the picture-perfect kind of 50s style housewife, but she's also a ruthless, efficient killer for hire. It's actually a little bit more 60s than it is 50s, but it is a comedy series, very, very gory and bloody, and it was created by Joelle Jones. So if any of that is your bag, you're going to want to check out that comic before the movie happens. I mean, we don't have any specific date on when the movie is going to happen, but I am very, very excited about that.
Oh, yes. And if you are looking for it, Rob, I do think we have the cover for Ladykillers right here somewhere. There it is.
There we go.
Look, always such a good cover.
The perfect solution
love
to those
cover.
problem stains.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
So
and I
good.
didn't realize, now Joelle Jones is, if not already, very, slowly becoming a household name.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically just killing it over at DC right now with Wonder Girl. And, did a lot of work on during the Future State, but I didn't realize this was Joelle
Catwoman
Jones
in
when I was
general.
reading it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I believe the art was also, there was some art duties by Jamie S. Rich. Just a really fantastic series. And there was actually 2 volumes. So if you're looking for it again, you're going to want to pick up Ladykiller Volume 1, which did have the cover we showed there. But they did do a 2nd volume, and who knows, we might get a 3rd if the excitement over this movie is going to be big enough. I'm super excited.
I'll bet a coffee right now that at this time next year we will have more issues. So that is live.
That
That
is.
is live.
I'll
We
see you
got
here
all
next year.
500 plus of you. That coffee is on Rob and Alex. Yeah, they'll get it for you. So the rest of our news is not as specific or breaking, if you will. We wanted to just fill you all in on everything else that's happening around the world of Sideshow and our Star Wars Fan Week. Specifically, of course, right up top, you're going to want to go to side.show/Fan Week 21. That is our landing page. That is where you can register all of the new items that we have. If you are like me and you are involved in an event, you're like, now I need something to take home right now. There's tons of in-stock product that is there that you can just pick up as well. And then if you'd like to know what's happening the rest of Fan Week, because we're only on day 3 of a 5-day event, go ahead and head over to side.show/Fan Week Blog 21. And that is, it's going to have everything that you need to know for the entire event. We've got our schedule, our newly updated schedule, and I'm going to get into that in a second. I think there's something on that schedule that Amy doesn't even know about because we had just talked about it. It's really, really awesome.
Maybe
It's
not.
not more. It's not more work for you, Amy. I promise.
Oh,
but
good.
we have so side.show/Fan Week Blog 21, and again, you're gonna most definitely just want to bookmark that, and that is everything you need to know. And then let's see, tomorrow we've got. So this is what I was telling you, Amy, is we do have Cobbled Cosplay tomorrow.
Ooh.
But it's a very special episode of Cobbled Cosplay. It's 2 hours. It is 2
For real?
hours long, for real, hosted by me and Darth Malix. Now, what we're doing is after we had mentioned it, we got so many fan auditions to be a Cobbled Cosplay champion that we are going to have 5 matches live of Cobbled Cosplay. We got it all set up. It is happening. We are so very excited. Now, that is still at noon. It'll go from noon right up until about 2 o'clock. Maybe some of the matches go a little longer, a little shorter. There's, when you've got me and Alex, it can definitely always run a little long. So, but that is at noon, runs till 2. That is going to be so much fun.
That is awesome. If any of the contestants are watching, as somebody who, did a little cobbled cosplay, have your
Cosplay
stuff
champion.
ready to go. Wear neutral colors to start. Make sure you got that tinfoil on lock. And make sure, just put on the biggest things first, because if you start with the tinfoil and you're flailing around, that tinfoil's coming off, and it's gonna be a disaster. But neutral colors, have everything ready. You'll do just fine. Oh, that is so exciting. Yep. And tomorrow, before all of that, we do have the request booth tour, don't we?
We sure do. So at 10 o'clock, as you guys have probably noticed, on May the 4th, which was yesterday, we had our booth tour with the incredible Guy Klender and that team there, and that was the light side of the Force. Today, we did the same thing with the dark side of the Force. Now, all of that has stayed up, and we will have a fan-driven, fan request episode tomorrow. You guys are going to basically steer the ship. I'll be moderating. All you guys got to do is tell me where you guys want to go, and Guy will do his absolute best to get to all of the requests. Again, I'm going to say there's going to be at least 10 people there, so, get there, save your seat, and maybe get your questions written down about some things that you maybe have seen the previous couple days that you would like to see revisited.
And if you want a refresher on what actually debuted, you can go to the blog. You can go to sideshow.com/blog. And one of the top articles that we published today was actually a full recap of the highlights, all the new things that were revealed, plus some pictures of the general booth overall, so you can kind of take a look around and see what you want to ask Guy to go check out. And I had a chance to go into the space, and it is so beautiful. And I think my favorite is just the way that those Clone Wars 6-scale figures that Sideshow is doing, just the way that those are just the portraits and the way the light hits them, they look like they stepped straight off the screen.
Amy Cassandra Martinez is here, who is one of our incredible hosts. Hi, Amy. Over on Twitch, which we are live on. Go hang out with our Twitch homies.
Oh my God, does she have her own emoji? Is that what I'm seeing?
She does have her own emoji.
That's so cool.
We'll get there, Amy. We'll get
Someday.
there. So, of course, and tomorrow someone did ask because, of course, the schedule changed. Steal the Deal has not gone anywhere. We just pushed it back now until 3 p.m. So we've got Steal the Deal at 3 p.m. and then at 5, of course, we have our That Sideshow show. So tomorrow is jam-packed. Head over to side.show/Fan Week Blog 21. That has been updated with the new schedule. And of course, we will put in the Rob, do we have the new schedule updated? I don't know if we have. Look at this. That's why Rob's the best. So, of course,
cosplay supersized showdown fan episode. I love all of those words together.
Right? And I was like, I want like this really big like manga title. That's what I want. Amy, aren't we on? This is probably good to know. Aren't we on the 9 a.m. show tomorrow?
We are on the 9 a.m. show tomorrow.
So at 9 a.m. you can catch me, Amy, and the rest of our ragtag group of nerds talking about what is Rebel Scum. You know, you can all pick your words about what is new at Sideshow. We talk pop culture headlines, what everyone's watching / reading, all manner of wonderful things. That's at 9, and then of course at 10 is that the Revenge of the Sixth. I love it. But yeah, that is our fan-driven booth tour. And then at 12 is our Cobbled Cosplay Supersize Showdown fan episode. And that'll run till about 2 o'clock. Maybe it'll end a little after, a little before. But that'll run till 2. Steal the Deal has moved till 3. Has moved to 3 o'clock. And then at 5 o'clock, of course, exclusively in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, we've got That Sideshow show. Boom. Thank you, Rob.
And now that's just Thursday, but we don't need to necessarily go into Friday because you guys can actually check out again at 5 p.m. today. We've got That Sideshow show exclusively in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. And Paul, you and Autumn are doing that one, right?
Yes.
So you and Autumn will take everybody through the rest of the week, what's been going on today. But we do have some comic books to talk about. I mean, I'd hate to pull you away from all this. But before we dive into our Star Wars picks for this week, we did want to do a quick rapid fire round of the books we're picking up this week, just so you guys get a quick refresher on what normal outside of the galaxy comics are releasing this week.
Yep. Thank you, Rob.
Boom.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll kick us off. So these are all books that I am reading right now. Over at Marvel, I've got Strange Academy number 10, Heroes Reborn number 1. I know I've said I'm not going to read it, but I'm going to at least read issue 1. I'm going to try, and then I'm just going to probably end up reading the whole thing. Yeah, that's how they get me. And then Star Wars Bounty Hunters War did start today. It is the new event within the world of Star Wars that sort of spins out from a book that I'm talking about today, but is the first, not the first big event in the Marvel Star Wars books right now, but it is currently the newest one, and is the Bounty Hunters War. There is that version, and then there's also the director's cut, which usually has some notes and some other assortment of things. So that's just in Marvel. Over at DC, I'm reading Batman 108, which I am super excited for. We've got a brand new character being introduced, just for all of our collector fans there as well. Swamp Thing number 3 and Green Lantern number 2. And then as far as my indie books go, Noctera over at Image, that's Noctera number 3. Fear Case number 4, so Fear Case is wrapping up. That is Dark Horse. Nope, not Dark Horse. Yeah, Dark Horse. And sorry, I talked myself in and out of that real fast. Wind number 6, which I'm really excited for because it wasn't supposed to continue, but it did end up picking back up. Whalesville number 1 and Eden number 1 by Aftershock Comics. So some number 1s I'm really excited for.
Nice. Some of the books I'm getting are also going to overlap with Paul's, but from Image Comics, I've got Noctera number 3 and Die number 16. We are headed for the final arc of Die. I know that moderator Rob is also a big fan of that book. They are, of course, ending at issue number 20 because Kieran Gillen is a clever cover man. And I'm just so excited about that. I've got the new printing of Jenny Zero. You guys might remember that Jenny Zero over from Dark Horse had a misprint earlier in April. Today is the day that the stores have the correct edition of Jenny Zero. I've also got Vampire the Masquerade number 8 from Vault Comics. And then over at Marvel, I've got Thor and Loki Double Trouble number 3 with the introduction of Jane Foster Thor to their adventures. The final issue of The Union, which is number 5. Strange Academy number 10. Marauders number 20. America Chavez Made in the USA number 3. And Heroes Reborn number 1. I am checking out that whole event series, and I have signed up for the Luke Cage one-shot and the what I think is called Young Squadron. I can't remember exactly, but it's the Young Avengers style, Young Justice, where
I think
Kamala
young.
Khan's
I think it is
after,
Young Squadron.
Power Princess and stuff like that. So I will be checking those out. If you guys have any questions about Heroes Reborn as the event goes through, we can chat about that in the local comic society. But that does it for our rapid fire round.
Sure does.
So next up, we've got a little segment. It doesn't have an asset, but a little segment that I like to call the Galactic Trade Federation, or Trade Paperback Federation.
Get it?
If you really want the joke explained. But Paul and I each picked out a book from each kind of trilogy of the Skywalker saga. So we're going to be covering a prequel recommendation, an original trilogy recommendation, and a sequel trilogy recommendation. And it's not necessarily it's stories set during that time period. So some of them are prequel to the prequels, and some of them are taking place with the way Marvel really creatively put stories in between the films. That's where we're going today. So first up in our Galactic Trade Federation segment, I'm way too proud of
You're
that.
very proud of yourself. I love it.
Thank you. We're covering the prequels.
Yes, we are.
Paul, do you want to get us
Am I kicking us off here?
Yeah,
oh,
sure,
yes.
why not?
Okay. So, this is this one of the only books that's in the Legends category? I think it is, right? So, in the interest of full disclosure, thank you so much, Rob. This is Star Wars Republic. Now, I'm specifically going to be talking about issue 50 and beyond because I didn't read a lot of 49 prior. This was released. I've got 1 second here. Yeah, so this was released in February 26th of 2003. Now, I will tell you the reason why I fell off this book. It's a good reason. I started reading Walking Dead, and I couldn't afford all of them. Walking Dead also started. Yeah, I was not working a lot of hours at that point in my life, so I could only afford a few books. But Star Wars Republic, again, this is considered the Legend series, meaning this is no longer canon because it's Dark Horse. It's one of the stories that Marvel did not sort of fold into their revitalized canon. That specifically takes place during the Clone Wars. More so right after what we're seeing at Camino. Interestingly enough, it's written by John Ostrander, who all of you may know very specifically from Suicide Squad. Like, he's the Suicide Squad guy. And then I remember seeing that he was doing a Star Wars book, and for whatever reason, that just really threw me. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who are bigger Ostrander fans than me, bigger Star Wars fans, but to me, it was just such a disconnect. It was so weird. I just didn't think that, like, that guy was the one. Anyways, I don't want to. I did this plenty back in 2003. So it's a fascinating
book by its cover.
No, you cannot. But that cover is great. But so it's titled Camino Under Attack, and it does have some great like Anakin lore that it builds in. It does actually a little bit more also for the clones in general and sort of that city. I've talked about Camino specifically on these streams. I just love that particular planet and that corner of Star Wars. I think it has to do with this, probably. This was actually a 64. So issue 50 is 64 pages that Ostrander just absolutely crushed. And it takes place, it says, about 2 months after the Battle of Geonosis. And it's honestly, it's so much fun. And it was John Duracima on the art, who personally, I haven't seen much of John's work afterwards, but I do know that he did continue working on Star Wars Republic up until about, like 60, 61, but unfortunately that's also when I had sort of fallen off of it. So I just, someone had asked us earlier, Amy, they're like, how do you guys keep up with all these comics? It is not easy. I mean, unfortunately there's some books that do, we got to drop. It happens.
The skeletons in our closet look like series in our long boxes that only have issues 1 and 2 before we dropped off. We do our best, and it's impossible to keep up with every single comic book, but there are so many out there, which is why it's great to go back and rediscover series that you might have missed or dropped off of for The Walking Dead, which I think is excusable.
Yeah, and I made a good, let's just say it was a fair trade-off to start reading The Walking Dead. But I mean, honestly, it's great. I absolutely love that. one of the very few Star Wars comics that I had read at that time. I didn't really start reading Star Wars again until much later in life, like 2019. Let's just say, like, so much, much later. But yeah, I mean, again, these are some older books. I think these are available on Marvel Unlimited in their full run. Issue 50 is definitely. I don't know if, 1 through, geez, I think it's 78 or no, it's 89. I think there's 89 issues. I believe they are all available on Marvel Unlimited, but the numerical, order of them is a little strange because they are broken up by very different. So like 5 issues is just one arc, and then it jumps to an entirely different time period. That happened quite a bit with the Dark Horse stuff. So, yeah, I mean that's Star Wars Republic. That's my prequel recommendation. If you can read it, start with 1, of course, if you can. But I personally read 50 till about 62. I think I read those 2 arcs.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of the Republic, I'm specifically recommending Age of Republic, written by Jody Houser with art by Luke Ross and Corey Smith. This is the cover for Age of Republic Heroes. So the breakdown was this was 8 individual one-shots put out by Marvel. It was collected as 2 trade paperbacks, which were Age of Republic Heroes and Age of Republic Villains. But there is a hardcover edition that was put out in February 2020 that is simply called Age of Republic. And this is a part of Marvel's Star Wars Ages series. So each one travels through one of the trilogies. So there is Age of Resistance and Age of Rebellion as well. But I wanted to focus specifically on Age of Republic because I don't know if people know this about my Star Wars fandom, but I began with the prequels, and I know most people go, oh, it's because you're young. It's because you're young. I didn't see a single Star Wars film till 2013. I didn't start reading comics till 2011 or 2011, 2012 was when I seriously hopped on monthly Marvel. 2011 was like Simpsons comics, which, a little different there. But I like to be completely open about the fact that I am a very late comer to some of these stories, but I love them so much. And that's what it makes it so much fun to go back and really catch up on everything. So I love the prequels. I love these characters. I mean, everybody loves young Obi-Wan. I love Anakin's story. And so there's a lot of the characters that we love from the Clone Wars era featured in these one-shots. So the hardcover collection, I'm going to speak specifically about the hardcover collection, is a 224-page edition. Really awesome. And so again, it has those 8 stories, the 4 villains, 4 heroes, and then there is an Age of Republic special that is included in the hardcover edition. And the characters who each had a featured story include Anakin Skywalker, Count Dooku, Darth Maul, General Grievous, Jango Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Padme Amidala, Qui-Gon Jinn, and then there was the special. Padme is my favorite of the bunch, and I really loved that story because we didn't get to see her do a lot of action missions in I know we saw a lot in the supplementary Clone Wars series, but in the major films, this is a really good chance for her to do some diplomacy that involves action as well, aggressive negotiations.
Like all good diplomacy.
Like all good diplomacy. So again, I mentioned this collection was put out in 2020, but the comics ran from 18 to 19, and they are technically considered canon. These are now considered canon with adventures before and throughout the Clone Wars, all the way up through before Revenge of the Sith. So I pulled out a couple of story examples. I didn't want to go through every single thing, but there is really just so much fun to be had with each of these characters. If you enjoy any of these characters, it's worth reading their adventures, because Jody Houser, we've spoken at length about before. She is the queen of fandom. She's done Critical Role comics. She's done Doctor Who. She's done Star Wars, of course, and she just does amazing work, has such reverence for these characters. So as I mentioned, Padme's story is a diplomatic mission as she seeks to bring a neutral world into the Republic. Obi-Wan's story is actually Phantom Menace era, like just after it. It's the early days of his apprenticing of Anakin, just after Qui-Gon's death. Like, he's made this promise to train Anakin, and so you get to see a little bit of that. Grievous's story is set after the Clone Wars story Lair of Grievous, and it's specifically as he is hunting down and killing Jedi, and he discovers a lost Jedi temple. And then Maul's story is set during his time as a Sith apprentice, as he waits in the shadows of Coruscant, to strike out at the Jedi. And there's that and more. I mean, I mentioned there's Jango and there's Qui-Gon Jinn, and there's just so much great storytelling going on in this collection. But I really, really loved what Marvel did with that, and the fact that they were all one-shots, but you get a really nice comprehensive look at moments throughout the prequel trilogy, and then they carried that through again with Age of Rebellion and Age of Resistance. I just love it, and Jodie Hauser is fantastic, and if her name is on a book, I will absolutely read it, especially if it is fandom material. So this is technically part of Marvel's canon Star Wars comics now. So that is my prequel recommendation.
You know, Amy, we definitely have some people that maybe have never seen our show or they are new to comics. And Corey over on YouTube asks, been hearing canon a lot. What the heck is this new lingo? Do you maybe want to explain a little bit what that word canon specifically means?
Yeah, so in the context of the Star Wars comics that we're talking about, there have been so many eras of Star Wars comics, and primarily IDW has done comics as well as Dark Horse, and I think Dark Horse obviously was the biggest license, but IDW has done some, and now Marvel holds the license. And in the eras of Star Wars, since Lucasfilm was acquired by Disney, there has been a discussion of which stories are considered, yes, this is the same storyline, same timeline as the movies. You can assume that this happened within the story world. So canon means that it did happen. So because Marvel and Lucasfilm are both under the Disney umbrella, Marvel's stories are considered canonical. You can assume that in between films, these adventures did truly happen. A lot of the stuff that has been made non-canon or decanonized is considered the extended universe, and is to be treated more like alternate universe, what if type stories or Elseworlds, where it's like this could have happened, but in the current continuity as it sits, it is not canon. So something is canonical, it definitely happened. If it's not canonical, then it's out there. It's a story that has been told, but it is not considered part of the main line.
Yes, and I believe specifically with Star Wars, the stuff that is not considered canon is specifically called legends. So it would be
legends,
like the Star Wars legend stories mean, while they are awesome and they do explore a different part of Star Wars, they don't fold specifically, or Disney doesn't recognize them within the grand history of the known Star Wars universe. All right. That's that's our prequel bit. Now that's one of three. We've got to move on to our next one, which is the one that
I like that it's a trilogy of trilogies.
It is the trilogy of trilogies. Yes. So our next our next segment in this trilogy of trilogies are books that we have read and personally wanted to make all you aware of, if you're not already aware of, from the original trilogy.
This was so hard because my personal favorite original trilogy story is Darth Vader and the Lost Command, which was a Dark Horse story. But I really wanted to focus on a character that I don't think everybody knows about, who is now considered part of canon. But before I get ahead of myself, Paul, do you want to take your choice?
Yes, I sure do. So I chose a book that is still running or will be running in some capacity, but also has a sort of a spin-off, if you will, event, as I was mentioning earlier. The book that is out today is called Star Wars War of the Bounty Hunters Alpha, specifically the prelude. But the book that I'm talking about came out a little earlier this year. It is Star Wars Bounty Hunters. Now, this is an incredible book. This is written by Ethan Sachs, and Paolo Vianelli is on art there. So Star Wars Bounty Hunters #1 is a perfect tie-in to Empire Strikes Back specifically. It does pair with The Mandalorian if you are looking specifically for that era as well. I'm not going to spoil. Again, we are a spoiler-free show, so you will not be getting any spoilers for these comics. I can't necessarily say the same for the movies because they've been out for a lot longer, but we try to be as spoiler-free as possible. So it does tie in with The Mandalorian in segments. It's a great book for sort of turning over stones in corners of the Marvel universe that, in the Star Wars universe that were not previously kind of touched on. This one specifically. I love the way that they had sort of pitched this to everyone, but basically Valance, Bosk, and Boba Fett are at the core of this story. So if you are a Boba Fett fan, like I am, like I'm pretty sure Amy is, and everyone out there is, this is a great Boba Fett story. But it does let him be sort of the supporting character. He doesn't actually carry the book. He doesn't. And it's wonderful because it really makes you appreciate Boba when he does come in. He's in and out. And specifically, if you're curious as to where these stories will take place. They do take place literally like a week before Boba Fett is delivering Han Solo and Carbonite. So it's like, what did he do during that week? This sort of explains this whole book, this whole arc is that in and of itself. Now, moving away from the lore and the canon of it, Lee Bermejo on all of these covers absolutely crushes it. I am a huge Lee Bermejo fan, specifically from a lot of his Batman work. I mean, he's done a ton of different things, but his Batman work has been legendary, and he gave his talents to Marvel for all of these covers. They are absolutely beautiful. Rob, can we bring up that cover one more time really fast? I mean, look at it's one. My dogs also agree. They love this book. I mean, he just does a great job with like the color and everything down there. Like everything, like he's got this really obscure way of photorealism that is not photorealism, but like the background is always wonderful with Bermejo. I can't explain how much I love him. He's wonderful. Again, this book does a really great job of bringing some of these characters in Empire, like just taking Empire by itself. Characters like Bosk and Boba Fett don't get a lot of breathing room. There's so much other stuff happening in that book. I mean, of course, now Boba Fett has become Boba Fett, but that wasn't obviously always the case. And this book treats Boba Fett in that manner. People know who Boba Fett is, but they aren't like spoon feeding you like, hey, this is who Boba Fett is. Obviously, you know who he is. It's wonderful. I love that particular aspect of it, and Ethan Sachs does a great job. Him and Paolo also worked on the Galaxy's Edge book that Marvel had released, sort of diving into the seedy underbelly of like that whole outpost, the trading post, which I think is the best part personally of Star Wars. Is
the
like
Black Spire outpost.
Yes, thank you. And the seedy underbelly of Star Wars, aside from all of the Force users and everything, like that's my favorite part of Star Wars. And this book does a great job of that. And I did catch one thing before we pass it over to Amy, is that there is a great Easter egg for fans of Star Wars Uprising, an old game. I don't know if people remember that game, but that's where you are first introduced to Bosk. It's at Burnin' Con, which is the name of that bar, which is only I think from what I was researching, it's only been really touched on in Star Wars Uprising. So again, Star Wars Bounty Hunters by Marvel came out in 2020, so it's a really new book. You can get this on Marvel Unlimited right now. You can probably get the trade somewhere at your local comic shop. Highly recommended. Please go pick up that book.
And I do want to point out, even though we're not covering it in today's show, for those of you who are nostalgic for Disneyland or maybe want a touch on the Galaxy's Edge land there, they did in fact put out a Galaxy's Edge series that kind of introduces you to that land. It does not include its own drink at Oga's Cantina, or I'm really missing the blue milk right now.
That's what and what I also like about Galaxy's Edge, which you guys should go read again by Sachs, they touch on like all of the randomness of like, oh man, we gotta move this blue milk. We've got too much of it. And again, I love it. I love it. It's seriously, to me. And again, I know, I'm everyone's got their very favorite part of Star Wars, but again, the seedy underbelly and everything that is happening while the Skywalker trilogy is happening is the best part of Star Wars.
Because there's a whole other galaxy, that family's having their drama, but there's a whole other galaxy out there.
There are many things happening.
I want to know though if they touch on the fact that there's a Dianoga in the water fountain, because that's a clear health code violation.
It sure is. Yeah, but I mean, they've got a lot of other things to worry about. Like you got 32 crates of crate blue milk to push. You got to do it. You got all this crate salt. I think it's sand. I think I've been well actually already.
I don't like
it's
sand.
Either salt or sand. So let's go with salt.
You're gonna let me do the whole liner?
Yeah, go ahead. We've got tons of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's not like we've got three more books to cover at least.
No, not at all. But courtesy of the Black Spire Outpost, Amy did bring everyone a gift.
Because we got so many crates of these to push.
So many crates of these. And if, I realized if we give people a reward code, we can just make. Our money's making money for us, Amy. Yes, everyone, we've got a reward code for you. Head over to side.show/code and enter Only Hope. Only Hope. Because you are our only hope to move all this blue milk.
Ta-da!
Ta-da.
Side.show/code
Yes.
Only Hope. We'll give you guys a second to do that before I dive into my pick for the original trilogy story that you guys have to read. I kind of played it loosey goosey because I do have a recommendation, but I'm more selling the character. I'm recommending you the character because there are so many adventures featuring this character that I hope a lot of people who are watching, if you are comics readers, you're going to know who I'm talking about. But if you don't know who I'm talking about, you've got a new favorite character coming your way.
You sure do. Yeah, we've got oh yeah, this is a good book.
Yeah.
This book.
Yeah, I picked a good one.
This is a good book. And it's interesting. This is like in that time, like when it was when was it that Aaron did Star Wars? It's 2015, right?
It was part of the because we covered so Gillen was on Darth Vader, Aaron was on the main book with John Cassidy, and then we had Princess Leia as the kind of launch. And then they did the Marjorie Liu Han Solo came out next. We had Lobot, we had Chewbacca with Phil Noto. Oh my goodness. Yeah, we could have picked so many books. If you guys haven't seen Phil Noto draw Chewbacca, please go check out that one.
Love you.
Oh, not W Forsaken says, I love the comics hall. You guys have helped me really get into comics over this last year. I am so glad to hear that. Thank you for believing in us and sticking with the show. And we really appreciate that because that is one of the things. I mean, the biggest thing that anyone will say is there are so many comics and I just can't figure out where to start. And I've, better not even try to start. But there is something for everybody. You don't have to dive into the deep end first. You can just find the things that make you happy, and it grows from there. So that's
it sure does.
Really important to us. So for those of you guys just joining us again, that code is limited quantity. I don't know how many people can redeem that.
First
2,000. So if you are listening on our podcast feedback beginning on Thursdays after the shows, unfortunately the code is probably taken, but that is your incentive to join us live at 4 p.m. Pacific every Wednesday, where we usually cover new books, but we do have special event shows like this one as well. That was my obligatory remind people about the podcast and the live show. Now it is my turn. I'm going to introduce you guys to Dr. Aphra. So this is Star Wars Dr. Aphra. I'm specifically showing you guys the first volume. This was the book that spun out of Kieran Gillen's Darth Vader. And it was the first solo title for Dr. Chelly Lana Aphra, who's a rogue archaeologist, and she has a droid duo, as you can see. They are known as the Murderbots, and they are 000 and PC1. I love the Murderbots. They are specifically assassin droids, so we've got, of course, a protocol assassin droid, and that's exceptionally dangerous. And then we have I'm not 100% on how to pronounce his name, but there is a Wookiee bounty hunter whose name I think is Black Chrysanthemum or Chrysanthemum, something like that. But there is a really cool Wookiee bounty hunter that was also introduced in the Darth Vader series who spins off into this one. This book received 2 nominations for GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Comic Book, and it won the award in 2020 because Dr. Aphra is confirmed as a lesbian, which I think is a cool addition to the series because she actually does have intercrossing storyline with the woman who claimed to be Han Solo's wife in Jason Aaron's Star Wars. Anyways, getting ahead of myself. So before I get into this, there are over 40 issues in the first volume series of Dr. Aphra. It is broken into about 7 different arcs, I think. And they just relaunched the series this last year with Alyssa Wong writing and art by Marika Cresta. That is the second volume of Dr. Aphra. But if you're looking to find the beginning of the character, you're going to want to go with the Kieran Gillen series, which was taken over by Simon Spurrier. And then artists have included Kev Walker, Sal LaRocca, Casper Wingard, and Will Sliney, and more. So this is a huge, huge story. This is a character who is very much a fan favorite. She has her own action figures, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in live action very soon. So she was created as the moral inverse of Indiana Jones. She's a highly trained expert
Oh,
archaeologist and criminal who goes on
nice.
adventures and is tasked with stealing important objects. She is very skilled at breaking into places, especially places where she's not supposed to be. And she is a notorious criminal, so much so that she was recognized by Han Solo and Vrogus Voss, and he noted that she's extremely clever and capable. She's also a little bit detached and reckless thanks to a difficult childhood, and she often double-crossed her allies, including Sena Staros, who was introduced as Sena Solo because she claimed to be married to Han Solo. And there's, the jury's still out on that one. That's a whole separate story. But just a lot of fun going on with her. So she is originally, as we were introduced to her in the Darth Vader series, she is enlisted in the service of Darth Vader to, of course, recover some very important objects with the help of her murder droids, and all while she's being tracked by various bounty hunters, including Black Chrysanthemum, the Wookiee bounty hunter. So it's hard for me to recommend just one story to you, but I really wanted to give you guys that pitch of the fact that she is the morally inverse Indiana Jones, stealing things as a criminal for bad reasons, and she's an archaeologist. And some of the names of the storylines she's been in include Aphra, which is the very first volume, the Screaming Citadel, which was a crossover with the main Star Wars title, the Enormous Prophet, remastered, the Catastrophe Con, Worst Among Equals, Unspeakable Rebel Superweapon, and Rogue's End. And then, of course, there is the new ongoing series, but those are all the titles of the trade paperbacks for the first 40 issues of her solo series. And she did first appear in Darth Vader #3 by Kieran Gillen, and I believe Sal LaRocca was the artist on the title at that point.
Sure was.
But she
carried
is
over.
such a fun character. I like Kurikatsu on Twitch says this doesn't belong in a museum, which is basically her outlook on the things that she is tasked with recovering. Just a fantastic, fun character that I really wanted to make sure everybody gets to know her, because the first volume does take place between A New Hope and Empire, and the one that just launched with Alyssa Wong does take place between Empire and Return. So if you want to get to know her, I definitely think you should check out any of the Dr. Aphra comics that you can find, because she is one of the, like Ahsoka Tano before her, I feel like introduced in an auxiliary Star Wars story, but just has really taken on a life with the fans, has so many stories going on, has action figures, so that's how you know she's made it. And they did make action figures of her murder droids as well, BT and 000, which I just love, because they're basically the shadow clones of R2 and C-3PO.
It's Necro R2D2.
Yeah, basically. It's like the venomized C-3PO. So if you didn't know that if you wanted to see the evil version of C-3PO, which protocol droids are my favorite if we're keeping score. Though I do like B1 battle droids. I do like B1 battle droids because they're cute and they go Roger. But protocol droids are my favorite because I too am versed in many things and a little bit awkward. So but I do like...
I knew why you liked protocol droids, but it is always funny to hear again.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
This protocol droid is skilled in murder. So
yeah, and Aphra is interesting because she's one of the many characters that people have been we're begging live action, please.
Yeah.
One of the few, and I think
who wouldn't watch an Indiana Jones style Star Wars?
Yeah, and when created, I know I saw someone earlier in the comments say that Chloe Bennett was being eyed for it, and
that would be good casting.
Awesome. One of the few that I think right after Vader 3 came out, they're like, I think I know what we're doing after this.
Yep.
Yeah, she was an immediate success. Yeah. Oh, wonderful.
That's one of those issues that you never know what number of a series you're going to be reading, but all of a sudden, boom, there's a big new character for you. So.
Yeah, and you never know. I remember, I was at our local comic shop, and I saw Vader, because I have Vader 1 through 12 or something. They're like, hey, if anyone has any Vader 3s, let me know. And then you don't really ever realize that when a character sort of gets introduced, someone like Aphra, that we could be really, really talking about her in very similar veins as an Ahsoka 10 years from now, because of just where the roots and where the base of that was written. Oh, jeez.
Very exciting. Yeah, so I wanted to make sure everybody knew. I use my platform for good and never evil, and I wanted to make sure you guys all knew about Dr. Aphra. And if you didn't, please introduce yourself today. So next up, we're going on to the sequel trilogy because there have been a number of comics put out
Yeah.
at that time. I mean, the sequel trilogy had begun as Marvel took over Star Wars. So we've got a couple of recommendations for you to again further flesh out the world of these stories.
Yes, so I'm going to kick us off here with The Rise of Kylo Ren, written by Charles Soule, art by Will Cellini, and colors by the incredible Guru FX. This is actually only a 4-issue miniseries that started in 2020. Now, very, very simply, sort of so you can jump on and understand where this takes place. This bounces back and forth between when you see that, Luke, again, spoilers, was going to strike down Kylo, and that's really the beginning of the end there. But this particular book does an incredible job of really fleshing out one of the things that I think we didn't really necessarily get to see on the big screen, which is the Knights of Ren. One of the coolest gang I've ever seen. And also they are someone that I think people had a lot of questions about when we had seen them in trailers, and then, Disney had confirmed who they were. But there was just so much happening, that they needed to squeeze it in somewhere. And this is really right here where you're going to get a lot of Knights of Ren, honestly. I do also love that this is specifically how Kylo Ren got involved with the First Order. Like, how do you go from being an apprentice who is watching
In the Skywalker line.
in the Skywalker line, watching the Jedi Temple burn, and again, at this point in time, you don't really know everything that's sort of happening, to being the enforcer, and for lack of a better word, the successor to Darth Vader for the First Order. And this sort of starts bridging the gap there, but it also leaves enough room in between some of these stories, I think, that it allows you to, allows you and also I think them to go back at another time and write in between these gaps. But it's super high octane, I feel, and Will Cellini does my favorite version of Kylo Ren and the Knights of Ren. Seriously, there are some moments in here where you're like, oh my god, that was incredible. Like, I'm not going to compare it to Infinity War, but when Thor comes down in Wakanda, there are some moments there when you're like, that's pretty great. And they are things that you would have liked to see in the big screen, but this whole team does such an incredible job. Of course, Charles Soule does. I mean, Charles Soule is a legend in comics at this point.
He even had his own Darth Vader series after Kieran Gillen's.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he sure did. I always forget that was him.
I think he was between Gillen and Greg Pak.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. Bach did a great job. I think he did also. I don't remember. I don't know if he helped plot the TIE Fighter story also. That was all sort of out of that, or if he actually wrote that. But there's another TIE Fighter story that will 100% make you care about these TIE Fighters, as they are wont to do. I mean, they do such an incredible job with all of these characters. And I think this particular story, again, only 4 issues. Right now, it is on Marvel Unlimited. I'm sure you can find it at your local comic shop. It's on Comixology. It's 4 issues, about 32 pages per issue. Really, really easy to read. But I do love the progression of Ben to Ren, and you see how his mind changes, and it's something that I think we haven't really gotten to dig into with a brand new character who's become so iconic in Star Wars lore. Like, you see that mask, you see everything, you recognize him, and it touches on a bunch of different things for him and how he became who he was. Also, there's a lot of Snoke in there, which is never a bad thing. I mean, we know who he is now, but if you pretend that you don't know any of that, it's really exciting to read. So again, I this is probably the most recent of everything I think we might be talking about.
I think so.
You all may have seen it at some point, but again, The Rise of Kylo Ren came out in, I think, February or January of 2020. Again, it's all the issues are out there. You can go read it right now. It's so great. So great. Go read it.
follow the story of Ben to Ren and back again.
Oh, is that what you were sitting on? I was like,
Yes,
I see the smirk.
Ben to Ren and back again. Now, finally, I know this is going to be a bit of a hard sell, but I want you guys to trust me, at least if the names alone of the creators don't sell it for you. As Marvel was filling in information between the films, there were it was interesting because they were writing at the same time as the films were coming out, and so they couldn't obviously spoil, and I'm sure that the writers didn't really necessarily get all the spoilers, but they were bridging some interesting gaps. So specifically, I wanted to highlight Captain Phasma Volume 1 by Kelly Thompson and Marco Chicado. Yes, that same Marco Chicado, who is one of Marvel's Stormbreakers this year and is doing Daredevil with Chip Zdarsky currently, and the same Kelly Thompson of Captain Marvel fame. This was part of the Journey to Star Wars The Last Jedi publishing line, which did lead up to the film. So this was launched after The Force Awakens hit theaters, released by Marvel in 2017. This is a 112-page collection. Also, Andres Mosa did some of the art duties as well. This is a 112-page collection.
I didn't realize it was so big.
It was a 4-issue series as well.
It's a healthy book.
It's a big book. And this story takes place immediately after the destruction of Starkiller Base in The Force Awakens. And it shows Captain Phasma's escape from the trash compactor and her eventual return to where we see her at the beginning of The Last Jedi, reinstalled into her place of power. This is a solid read. It actually does tie in also with the canonical Phasma novel by Delilah S. Dawson that really, really gave us some of the, and I'll say it, best interpretations of this character who we did not get to see very much of on screen. We learn about how ruthless she is, and without spoiling too much, the plan that is set in motion is not only her escape, but the elaborate plot to pin the responsibility for lowering the shields and allowing the Resistance to take down Starkiller Base, pinning that on one of her inferior officers. So this is a really cool side of Phasma. Again, the kind of ruthless, do whatever it takes to make it out story. And I won't spoil it. I mean, you can guess where she ends up because it does align canonically with the movie The Last Jedi. But for any fans who really found this character to be underutilized and still just loved the design, I mean, Chicado kills it with the armor, and just really wanted to see what this character was capable of. There's no better place to look than this comic book series. I really enjoyed this character. I love the design. I mean, it's one of my favorite designs in all of Star Wars, and I will say that. I will put money down on that. But it is a nice look at what she was doing in between films that does explain a gap and gives you more than just explaining a plot hole, or not plot hole, but explaining a point A to B. That's not what you're there for. You are there for the character. And Kelly Thompson, as we've said many times on this show, does an amazing job with character voices and motivations. So I really recommend the Captain Phasma Volume 1 story if you were at all a skeptic about the character or want a little bit more from her. It definitely goes in with Marvel's sequel releases that really kind of helped fill in.
Probably on, that's actually definitely on Marvel Unlimited. Definitely on Comixology, I would assume.
Yeah, I would bet. I didn't unfortunately check before the show, but it has been out long enough that I would definitely believe that it's included out there. But there are so many other titles we could have recommended. There, of course, is the kind of Poe Dameron prequel, where his parents are even introduced, and all of these amazing Star Wars stories. And we mostly covered a lot of Marvel, but there is, of course, so many different places, as Paul mentioned, with the Legends to check out Star Wars stories. These were just a few of our favorites. It would be impossible to cover the entire galaxy. But if you are excited by these titles, please know that Marvel does have an incredibly robust Star Wars output, and they are constantly, like every week, I feel like there's a new.
Oh yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Now, to go with our Holler at the Hall segment, we did ask you guys. Oh man, I see Autumn's in the chat, so we've got the.
She's
the
playing
hook.
the Oscar music.
I know. So we're gonna go through these really quickly, but we asked you guys some of your favorite Star Wars stories, and you guys gave us some great responses. So if we could pull up Shane Davis's cover, love that. So Shane Davis said, "I had this issue growing up and always loved it. It's specifically Star Wars number, I believe 81. I can't quite read the image on the screen.
81.
81. I had this issue growing up and I always loved it, still have it, but it was the first issue after Return of the Jedi, and it was about Han going back to Tatooine to try to get his things back in order. Just love the cover and the story." That is such a fantastic piece, and that is from Marvel's original Volume 1 of Star Wars, which is technically not considered canon as they relaunched in 2015. So there we go.
And then we have Steve Nara, who said, I really enjoyed the original Knights of the Old Republic series with Ladykiller drama. And is it Nomi Sunrider?
Yes.
I think I got those right. And then our a great listener who watches all of our shows here, JJ Joe. Now this is funny, Amy. I'm gonna let you take this one, and then you can explain why.
This was going to be my first pick to describe for the sequel trilogy recommendations, but I was on the fence. I was like, I really want people to know about the Captain Phasma story. And so JJ Joe, when you picked this one, I was like, all right, I'll tell them about Phasma because this one is here. This is a C-3PO one-shot, and JJ Joe says, it explains how 3PO tragically acquired his red arm. It's a very good story of sacrifice and ultimately friendship. So if you found yourself not recognizing him because of his red arm, you're definitely going to want to check out this one-shot. It is surprisingly full of heart. You will believe that droids can love, but it's a really nice story that does give some weight towards this cosmetic change that the films made. So if you some people are going to be fine going through life never knowing why he had a red arm, but if you want to know, if you're really curious, there is a comic for that.
Yeah, it's a great book. Adam Bunch said, Crimson Empire. I've always been a huge fan of the Royal Guards. How badass must you be to be the personal guard of the Emperor? We do find out. Yes, you do find out. And then we have Joe Lombardo. We've got our last asset here by Joe Lombardo. It says Tag and Bink, the Rosencrantz and Guildenstern of a galaxy far, far away. Look at that cover.
I googled Tag and Bink. There was a lot of funny imagery out there. So thank you, Joe Lombardo, for the suggestion. And finally, what might be one of my favorite answers is Anthony Tyler Robertson says, I have never tried the comics. I'm excited to hear some good recommendations. The more recent ones have tempted me. And so this was in the thread after so many of you guys gave such fantastic answers. So Anthony Tyler Robertson, whether watching this specific segment and seeing everybody else's recommendations or taking a look at some of our recommendations, we hope that you give Star Wars comics a chance because there's a lot out there. There lot of fun.
Yeah. Well,
so that about does it for our Holler at the Hall. We do have a new question for you guys. Next week, we're back to normal form. We've done our Princess Week special. We've done our Star Wars special. Next week, we are back to New Comic Book Day. All the new releases on Wednesday. But as we move out of this event season and move towards the summer, we wanted to ask you guys, what is your most anticipated comic release of the summer? Publishers have put out their solicitations up through July, so you do have a chance to take a look ahead and see what's coming out soon. We've got some new events in the hopper. A lot of the companies have given us a preview of what's to come. So we want to know, what's your most anticipated comic release of this summer? You can answer that question in the Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group. We will post that up very soon. We will also have this on our social media. We can be found at Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comics Hall. And you can go to the local Comics Society, which is our very own proprietary Facebook group. It is our comics community.
We made it.
We made it. We made it, Ma, but also we made it. It is side.show/your LCS. LCS in this case stands for the local Comics Society, because whether or not you have a store that you can physically go to, or you're just looking for a comics community, we are bringing the LCS experience to you. Sans selling comics. We can't sell comics. But we will post the question up in there as well. Thank you guys to everybody who did give us a fantastic response. Again, we hope that you have enjoyed May the 4th fan week so far. It's not over yet. You'll want to hop over to Let Your Geek Sideshow Facebook group, where you can exclusively talk with Paul Bufrick and the Grand Interruptress, Autumn, for a wrap-up of today's festivities, and take a look ahead tomorrow at that Cobbled Cosplay Superfan Showdown with 12 different words in the title that I don't even remember. But we are getting the hook right now. So, Paul, any closing thoughts before we go?
No, we will see you over on in Let Your Geek Side Show. We just confirmed, like, while all this was happening, something really cool that we get to do. So tune in. We'll see you guys very, very shortly. Side.show/geek group if you're not in Let Your Geek Side Show. Also, again, it's a lot easier. Me and Amy sort of just pour our pull lists sometimes into the local comics society, Side.show/your LCS. I'll see you in like 2 minutes, guys.
Yes, thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, I'm Amy.
And I'm Paul.
And don't forget to it's the Comics Hall. Oh my God, I forgot.